Hi, my name is David Herle. You may have heard of me from contexts such as running political campaigns, commenting on politics on the CBC, or my recent podcast, The Herle Burly. But professionally, I'm a public opinion researcher, a pollster. Part of opinion research is a thing called a focus group, a facilitated discussion. I've moderated hundreds, maybe thousands of these. They're extraordinarily valuable in understanding how people think about issues. They reveal true intensity of feeling, candidness, what words and constructs people use when talking about an issue or a politician, the strength of an argument to persuade. Marketers and political parties have used focus groups for years to shape their strategies and communications. Now Air Quotes Media is bringing them to you. Through the Looking Glass, presented by Telus, is a show that uses focus groups to show you how important issues are being conceptualized, thought about, expressed by ordinary Canadians. Hands up if you've seen that image.
I don't think it's all hockey and Tim Hortons.
We're going through genocide and we're still paying taxes.
Many of us now live in silos of our own creation, silos that prevent us from hearing and understanding where people are coming from. You'll see exactly where they're coming from on Through the Looking Glass. No filters, just real talk. So let's get right to it. How much attention did you pay to the election campaign this week, the federal election that's on? How much attention? Tara, you start us off.
I watch the news more than I normally do. I think since COVID began, I kind of stayed away from everything. Right. So I did watch. So I did hear or see some things. I wouldn't say it was every day, but more than my usual.
Right. Cece, were you riveted to the campaign this week?
Well, I think I didn't purposely tune in to the channel, but when I did hear, I just eavesdropping a little bit more. When I'm driving, if I hear it, like they're talking about the campaign, then I maybe turn up the volume a little bit more, but didn't really purposely, research or like tune into a channel to look for more information. But when I did bump into the information, I just take a little bit more time and attention listening to it.
Okay, let's do one of my hands up exercises. Put your hand up if you found the first week of the campaign really interesting. If you thought the first week of the election was really interesting, put your hand up. Okay, Daryl. Jesus, tell us what happened.
Well, I don't watch pretty much any cable TV. I don't turn on the TV for actual television shows, like just video gaming and movies. But I'm hearing a lot on the radio. There's a lot of attack ads, and they are fun to listen to because they are so outlandishly outdated. But they're trying, so throw them the credit on that. But I find it interesting specifically because anytime I hear these ads talking about anything and they say, oh, Consumer Coalition of Canada or whatever the company is, I always try to dig into who they actually are and who they're actually supporting. And it's fun because they don't make it very easy to find out what party they're supporting because money, it's a big deal.
Right. Sardul, what did you find interesting about the first week of the election?
I was going to downtown Toronto one day, couple days back. I see only one writing, a lot of signs up for two different parties. And I was in Brampton yesterday, and mostly people in Tim Hortons, they're talking about election. That's what I saw. But right. I could say that not really positive thing, but they just talk about why we have elections, we're doing this, doing that.
Right. Okay. So just for my information, when whatever amount of information about the election that you're consuming, where do you get it? Some people have mentioned television. Some people have mentioned radio. Sonny, where do you get your information or your news about the election?
I get it mainly from the television. So sometimes we have a channel.
Not Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, so just mainly on the news, like just on the news channel or when they give you little, a recap of the day. So yeah. I kind of get my summary from there, what's happening.
Right. Antonio, how about you? Where do you get your news from?
The news I trust the most, I guess, that it's not is like, say, radio station CKNW. I listen to that, like a lot of the talk shows on there. But a lot of the news that gets inputted to me is just when I'm scrolling Facebook, I see like the CBC news or the global, like I kind of follow some of the news things. So I'll usually watch the actual videos from a news broadcast, not really like, the opinion articles as my news. But this week was very limited because I had limited internet access. I was camping. So I didn't consume a lot of election media this week. So.
Cool. Jane, where do you get your news from about the campaign?
The campaign this week mainly on TV and then online newspapers like the Globe and Mail. But looking forward, I will be watching the leaders debate, and I'll take a crack at looking at the party platforms on the different websites.
Okay. So we're finished week 1. When we last met on Saturday, the election had yet to be called. And then it was called the next day on Sunday. So we've had a week of it. What has caught your eye, if anything? Yes, Art, go ahead.
I actually yesterday went on the platform on the internet for the Conservative and the Liberal Party to quickly scan what their focus is on and some idea how they're going to accomplish it.
Okay.
So that's where I get most of my information from.
Okay. Tara, what caught your eye in the campaign this week?
So I think it was Aaron O'Toole mostly because for some reason I saw his ads more than other people. And he seemed to be very much like wanting to be this GQ guy with his magazine, with his pose on it, and the way he was walking around in his commercial with a big smile. So it really looked like he was trying to make himself known.
All right. And what kind of an impression did he make on you, Tara?
It made me feel like he was trying to be a GQ guy. I'm not sure that's positive. I didn't really feel he was real in doing that. It seemed, because even when he was talking in one of them, he was holding his magazine with him on the cover of it as he was talking. So it seemed very much staged as opposed to an honest sort of look at him.
Okay. Anybody else? What caught your eye in the first week of the campaign? Trudeau.
What I see in Toronto, Mississauga, Brampton, a lot of Indian radios. They have 3-4 stations. They always talk about elections, and they're telling the candidate's name, the writing, all that stuff. And this is where we get all the information in GTA kind of stuff. But not happening too much in the East End. We all see with the West End area on the radios and all that stuff.
All right. Did anything happen in the first week, Sardual, that interested you or that you noticed?
To be honest with you, not really, because everybody not in the mood to talk about election yet. There's some people like us when having the morning time or coffee or something, people just talk on that thing. But I don't see normally people talking election, maybe too early yet. And they don't know what they're going to do and all that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking week 2 or week 3 going to really get things hot.
Okay. Daryl, what would you want to say?
I actually had noticed that the Conservatives particularly have been caught up in a little bit of, not a scandal, but they're calling it a scandal, with their invoicing for the donations that they're seeking right now, and calling it an invoice and please pay now kind of thing. That's made it onto online platforms like Reddit and other online forums. So it's kind of gone semi-global, not a big deal, but it really comes off pretty bad. Like if you're calling it a bill and you're seeking donations and people are paying it because they think they owe money, it kind of tells us that the Conservatives just don't have the bankroll to run a campaign properly.
Okay. Dragon. Dragon, did you notice anything happening in the first week of the campaign?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, David. Daryl just described about this fraud, from Conservatives sending bills to people and concerned. That's what I noticed the most. And also, I was surprised by listening to AM 640 Toronto. they were talking about who is the youngest and all these candidates. I was surprised that Erin O'Toole is actually younger than Justin Trudeau by a year. And Jagmeet Singh, I already knew that he's the youngest, born in 79. So I was just surprised that he's actually, Justin is older than Erin O'Toole. By the way, David, I also watch the news I get from election. I watch the CTV News Network and also daily, and also I listen to the local station AM 640, which is the affiliate in Vancouver, CKNW. I used to watch David daily CBC News Network, but I stopped getting any news from them. I actually like better CBC News Network because they have less commercials. But now, a few months ago, they started actually, it's a blank screen. When there is commercial, they don't show you anything. So I switched the news network. I don't understand why they did that. Like when the commercial starts, nothing happens for 2-3 minutes. Then I got tired of it. So now I just watch, I get all my news from the local station here in Toronto, CTV Toronto and CTV News Network. So I just wanted to mention that for myself, since you raised that question, how you get your news stories. So I wanted to provide that feedback as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Shane had something.
Yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so one thing that was interesting this week is the Conservatives did actually publish their platform, which is very, very early last election. They didn't actually publish the platform until after the leaders' debate, which was quite late. So it's really interesting that that came out so quickly. And the other thing I noticed is Erin O'Toole is already in trouble over his the platform on the childcare issue.
Okay. What do you mean he's in trouble?
Well, the way what the country has been working towards is a $10 a day childcare, and that's what the Liberals have promised, and they've been working on that specifically in several provinces and have signed agreements with many of the provinces. And O'Toole wants to change that. His idea of the daycare is getting some kind of a rebate, but it completely ignores the issue that there's a lack of daycare spaces. That's one of the major problems, is a shortage. So just giving a rebate to people who are paying for childcare doesn't address that at all.
I haven't heard from you yet. Did you see anything of any interest in the first week of the campaign?
I did pay more attention to this news. Like usually I got my news from radio or from the social media. And in particular, this morning I heard a news and talking about Erin O'Toole's the image. So they had like a commercial style image showing him like the strengths, how healthy he is as a male leader. So that is from someone who is like a professional image designer. She gave a comments when she was interviewed on the news, CBC News. Right. So I think it's pretty interesting. Okay, so start from this vision or visualized effect and give you an impression that this is a leader, like a very strong image present to the Canadian people. So, and also I heard this platform and what is the their policy is going to focus on, like from different parties. So those are the information is pretty important for every voter to make their decision, I believe.
Okay. Let me ask the group this question. Do you have the exact same impression of Justin Trudeau today as you did a week ago? Or do you have a slightly different impression? And if so, what?
I have the same impression.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah,
same
same.
impression.
I have a slightly different impression. And it's kind of rolling back to that $10 a day childcare. we've been talking about that for a long time. It was promised the last round when we went through this. And I mean, he's working to it, so credit where it's due, but now he's promising it again. It's kind of, now it feels like, well, now why even promise it? You're not finishing, right? It's still on the docket from before. So, but just a little bit of tarnishing on that, but otherwise mostly the same.
Who else has a slightly different impression of Justin Trudeau than they had? Sir Duel?
Yep. What I'm thinking is what happened is people are not happy the way he threw money out. He just heard a little bit last week, all the seniors age of 75 up, they're getting $500 this week. And a lot of people not happy. They should be if the age of senior is 65, they also saying should be 65 to all or nothing. That's number one. Number two, he throw the money out to a lot of wrong people. They're not qualifying, they got the money. And when they asking for the money pay back, a lot of people will be unhappy. So when he give the money away from taxpayers' money, he should have a little bit more rule regulation to qualify people. And it's a lot of things happening in all the communities. Disqualified people get the money, and now they're kind of, they can't pay money back. And you see a lot of jobs opening everywhere because people don't want to go to work. If they make money at home, why they go to work? So this is, to me, this is not a very good way to doing it. He should try to provide jobs, not throw the money out.
Yes, I agree.
Anybody else have their opinion change a little bit about Justin Trudeau this week as they watched the campaign?
Yeah, actually, I did. After the last Saturday session, once I heard the news, like it's an interview about why he was calling for the election, and he repeatedly said he wants the Canadian people to voice their opinion, so on and so forth. But when the news, like a radio interview, other like a public, so many people kind of confused or like why are you calling election now? So if he is saying, okay, I want Canadian people's voice to be heard, but that is part of the Canadian people's voice. So that makes me feel like this is somehow is still, that is coming from his own interest rather than consider to have all the Canadian people's voice to be heard.
Okay. Can I grant something else?
Sure.
Okay. What people are talking about that, any issue you bring up in the parliament, they all go through. Nothing go back. Nobody's stopping him. Why Canadian people have to put $600 million on election? We have a debt enough to pay for it. Now we are adding more debt to Canadian taxpayers.
So, what did you do yesterday? I'm guessing for a lot of you, it was some combination of going to meetings, scrolling your feeds for election news, ordering food, shopping online, and maybe listening to podcasts. All of that happened because of powerful digital connectivity, something that many of us living in the larger cities kind of take for granted. Our presenting sponsor, Telus, doesn't take it for granted. It's a mission for them to make digital connectivity more powerful, more reliable, and to bring that power to every rural, remote, and Indigenous community in Canada. There's just no good reason people living in our smallest places shouldn't have the same access to high-speed internet and the advantages it brings as our most densely populated areas. So far, 450,000 households across Canada are wired into Telus's world-leading pure fiber network. Since 2013, Telus has invested more than $5 billion to connect 137 communities and 56 First Nations across BC, Alberta, and parts of Quebec to pure fiber. Another 410,000 rural households are connected to their high-speed wireless networks, and a total of 178 Indigenous communities and 430 Indigenous lands get high-speed internet through Telus. It's life-changing stuff. The ability to work online, get medical care online, run a business online, learn online, even revitalize a language and preserve your cultural heritage online. without having to pack up and move to the big city to do it. As good as that is, it's a work in progress. The continuing evolution of 5G technology means Telus' high-speed signals will travel further and faster so they can cover more of this vast land. You can learn more about it at telus.com/connectingcanada. What about Aaron O'Toole? Did anybody see or hear anything this week that made them change their opinion in any way about Aaron O'Toole? Funny.
I heard a lot, but I'll wait till other people because mine's not great.
Sonny?
Nothing really that I saw that would change my opinion about him. I'm kind of on the fence with him. I'm not sure if I trust what he says. I kind of agree a little bit with Tara. I think he's more, from what I saw that brief interview where he was holding his own magazine cover, kind of polished and dressed. So I think he's, I have a feeling like he's kind of saying something else and then doing something else type of guy, but I don't have too much information to back that up yet. So I'm just going to watch him as we go.
Okay, Art?
When I look at the politician, I don't really concentrate on how they look and all that. All I want to know is what they're standing for, and I like to see some thought into how they're going to proceed and make it happen. You know, whether it's viable or not. They all promise things, and I want to see how they're going to pay for it. So usually it's either they have to raise taxes or cut services. So I want to see how it's going to affect us with the promises they make.
But just tell me what you think about O'Toole, Art, as a person.
I really don't know. I really haven't formed a hard opinion on him. I kind of feel like he's like a typical politician, like all of them. They're all going to say things to get the votes and make promises and basically talk trash about the other candidates. That's just the nature of the business, I guess.
Last week, not many of you knew much about Aaron O'Toole. Do you feel you know any more today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
DC, what do you know?
Sorry, was that a question for me?
Yeah, like in what way did your opinion about him get shifted this week?
I wouldn't say shifted. I would say I'll finally form a first impression about him. I think I mentioned last week, like, I didn't even know he was the leader for the party. So after watching, I think it was clips of the news radio, the news on the TV. It was the first, I think, in-person meeting that he had with his supporter for the campaign. I finally just formed a first impression about him, and very similar to what Arm mentioned earlier. He's just a typical politicians haven't really get to understand. Actually, very similar opinion also as Art. Like, yes, the politicians, they can make whatever promises they think will attract the voters. But I think it's really important to also know about. I think it's more important to know about how they're gonna pay for the bills, pay for the expenses, because there's no free lunch, no free money. The government can't continue to print, new money into the market. So I think there's just waiting for a little bit more time and more information to be sure about each party in terms of how they're going to pay for those promises they had made.
Okay. Anybody got anything more to say about O'Toole?
Come on, Daryl.
I was just waiting because I know that mine is a little bit trickier there. I didn't know much about O'Toole, so I tried to dig a little bit, just look up some basic research. And the man, his platform, I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but judging from his past opinions and actions, the person that he is talking about repealing abortion rights for women in particular was one of the things I come up with. And that's scary when he wants to repeal our Canadian rights. And I'm not just speaking from the male perspective or the female perspective, anything like that. It's just, this is a fundamental right that we have left unchanged for forever. And he wants to go in and start he's probably using it as a topic to rile up and then roll back on, we won't do that. And then try and win back that vote from that angle. But it's somebody who has that opinion on one topic probably has more opinions on other topics in that same day.
Okay. What about Jagmeet Singh. Anybody see anything of him this week, and did it make an impression on you? Dragon?
I listened to him a little bit.
All right, go ahead, Art.
I'm not overly impressed. They seem to just promise everything and to everybody, and I'm concerned with how they're going to pay for all this. More,
right.
They seem to promise more than what the other candidates do.
Antonio, do you see anything about Singh this week? You're up in the bush, I know.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, I've seen a couple announcements just of like, you know, the funding, some of the things that, you know, they want to do, and, you know, taxing some of the corporations and some of the stuff. And I mean, I think that's good. I think that some of the higher end people need to pay a little bit more of their share into the thing, and that as a way to fund some of these programs that he is proposing, that would be good for the country as a whole, the Medicare and, you know, and all that stuff, right? Dental care, those things that he wants to, that the NDP want to bring in. There's a way to fund some, you know, avenues to fund them. So.
Right.
Yeah, David, that's also, I wanted to add what I learned something new from Jagmeet Singh. He wants to tax the ultra rich, not Canadian citizen and permanent residents. It should be also taxing not just the ultra rich, but also rich people as well. Besides finding he was the youngest candidate, that's the other news that I heard. And I'm glad, you know, it's about time. They do it all across Canada, especially Vancouver area and here in GTA and the Toronto area. A lot of people, they buy properties, especially Vancouver, and they don't even live there. So it should be taxing for sure.
I did find it curious with the taxing of the rich and ultra rich. A little bit of research from my end, whether it's true or not, I haven't verified yet. But apparently, Mr. Singh is worth roughly $3 to $5 million. So the fact that he's even saying, "Hey, I'm wealthy enough, we should be taxing me more," it does speak well to the character. But whether it's followed through on is a totally different situation.
Hey, Jane, what do you think of him this week?
My opinion didn't change at all. I did see him starting on the campaign trail, but I didn't hear anything new from him.
Okay. Tara?
I would say the same as Jane. I did see a couple of snippets of him out meeting people, but the things that he said were the same that I had heard before.
Okay. Does his campaign look the same as the other two parties, or does it look different?
I would say it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
Okay. So there were a few skirmishes between the parties this week. One of them was over vaccine policy. Did anybody pay any attention to that?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? How many people sort of followed this vaccine debate?
A little.
A little.
Okay. So what's the difference between the parties on this subject?
I'll go first. So the Liberals right now, they've brought in legislation for mandatory vaccines in certain circumstances for federal employees, for people traveling by train and long distance rail. They're looking at bringing in mandatory vaccines for people working in high-risk areas such as long-term care homes and in hospitals and other high-risk environments. In Aaron O'Toole's words, he's coming out as pro-choice. So there's a conflict there in the difference between things. So from my point of view, working in healthcare, working in a hospital currently, I support the mandatory vaccines. I mean, you can trace it back, the case counts, the major outbreaks early on, especially in the pandemic before we had vaccines. You look at the thousands and thousands of deaths in long-term care homes. You see how many, how cases have rocketed in outbreaks in hospitals as well, meat packing plants. There's certain environments that are more conducive to the spread of the virus, and yeah, working in healthcare, my mandate is to keep people safe. So yeah, I applaud the action that the Liberals have taken to keep people safe. I think that's one of the roles of government is to keep its citizens safe.
Jane, you can probably speak to this more clearly. I understand that nurses in particular still have many older mandatory vaccines such as polio, whooping cough, all those ones. You probably confirm that. So, I mean, the COVID vaccine should just be an extension of that, I imagine, right? So if there's already mandatory vaccines, why is it a big deal, right?
Yeah, and that's something they're looking at in school as well. There's already, in some places, I think we learned last week it's not universal, but in a lot of places there's mandatory vaccines for schools. So that's something, when the vaccine is determined to be safe, if and when it's determined to be safe for children, for the under 12s, that's something that they might look at as well.
Back to the election, though. What's the difference between the Liberal position and the Conservative position? Antonio?
I mean, I read a little bit on this just recently, and I guess their position doesn't really vary much because the Conservatives want basically it to be same thing of all federal workers to be required, but they've left the opportunity for rapid test, that choice, but you'd have to be rapid tested. Like they want, if you're not going to, you're going to have to do rapid tests before starting work, before getting on a plane or train. So really all three parties are their platform points on is for federally regulated industries, the federal workers, wherever, that they want mandatory vaccine. The NDP seems actually the hardest line on it, where they're already saying if you don't want it, if you're someone who refuses in that, a federal worker, then they'll apply the collective agreement discipline process, basically, right? Where it's, you go through the process, through the discipline process, and, where repeat discipline could eventually lead to termination, where Trudeau said that, and he's being careful. He's saying, well, we're going to work with those unions to figure out what we're going to do. Right. And so being a little more wishy-washy about it, you could say, or he's being just more careful on making a commitment that they're going to go through. And O'Toole is probably the easiest. It just says, we want it for everybody, but if you're not going to, because like Jay said, it's a little more personal choice, then you have to rapid test before work. Like it's going to be, you have to, right?
Jane, get your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Thanks, Antonio. The rapid testing is not as accurate as the regular testing, and it doesn't. I see what he's saying. He's trying to give a second choice there, but unfortunately, because of the nature of this virus, you can carry it and be asymptomatic. You can even carry it if you're double vaccinated and pass it on to other people. So just having the rapid tests is not going to slow down the extent of the illness, hospitalization, and death.
Did you see any difference between the parties?
Yeah, the difference is I heard what they're saying, which is Liberal wants to give the mandatory requirement for people who work in the government setting or in those like essential place, for example, hospital. And the Conservative would encourage you get the vaccine, but they will not make it mandatory, meaning you have you can make your own decision to say yes or no. So I think that's a fundamental difference between these two parties. And on top of that, what I knew is from the people that I know, and some unfortunate severe case happened, like one of my colleagues' husband's colleague who works in grocery store. So they are like considered essential workers. So they got vaccine pretty early on. Unfortunately, this person who is in his 40s got stroke and was a healthy person. The other case is another my colleague, her mother is in India and in her 80s, and then got the vaccine, the India version vaccine, and she got a stroke too. And then because of the stroke, and she was paralyzed, and so that she had to be fed with a tube through her nose. Then she got infection to her lung, and then her mom passed away a few months ago. So to some cases, if medical condition doesn't allow, and unfortunately at this time, I don't think we can predict which person may get severe reaction or side effect. So with this risk, and also because it's still the emergency use as approved by FDA, so that actually there's no liability associated with any side effect if you get a vaccine and you get a side effect. So with that time frame, it's emergency use, and the USA it's mandatory to everybody, and nobody is going to be responsible for any severe side effect, for example, stroke. So imagine a guy in his 40s, and he probably is a major bread maker for his family, and he got stroke. Then that's a completely tragedy to that family. So even you get a COVID, you may not die from COVID, but you get stroke and you cannot move your body for the rest of the life. So with those cases, even they are rare, but still you cannot predict. So that I would consider give people more autonomy to make their own decision. I would weigh the benefit and the risk myself on my side. I'd rather to take the risk, or I'd rather to take benefit. I make that decision based on my own judgment. But if you make it as a mandatory,
do you think let me challenge you.
Yeah.
So you can decide not to have the vaccine.
Right.
Does that mean that you have the right to be a doctor in a hospital?
I would consider as a doctor, you get to pass your board exam, you get your license, not because you get vaccine, because you passed all these exams. So that's my point of view.
Okay. All right. Enough about COVID. Another issue. Another issue that the parties were fighting about this week was abortion and a woman's right to choose. Anybody hear anything about that?
Yep.
Sarah?
So what I had heard, I think, if I recall correctly, was Aaron O'Toole talking about it. But from what I remember, he said he is pro-choice. However, he does not want to legislate all doctors to have to perform it if that's not something they believe in. So it wasn't so much that he wanted to take abortion away entirely, or the right to choose abortion. He was allowing doctors or people to choose if they don't want to have to refer or talk to somebody about that, then they could refer them to somebody who is of that belief. I think.
Okay. Does that sound like a reasonable position?
Yeah, and that's already in existence.
Sorry,
actually.
Jane. I'd like to continue to hear from Tara for just a minute.
I do think that seems to me to be a reasonable position. Yes, because then it gives that person's own beliefs as a doctor. If they are Catholic, we'll say, and are against abortion, they can still be a doctor. And as long as they refer to somebody else, I don't see how it's hurting. That's just me.
Okay. Anybody think it's a big deal? Jane?
Yeah, I was sorry to cut in. I didn't realize you weren't finished. So Tara, that is actually already in policy. So there's no change to that. So even though he's trying to make it sound like it's a new idea, it's actually, that's how it exists right now. So there's no change. But what I found interesting is if you look at the PC caucus, the Conservative caucus, the majority of the caucus actually is pro-life. They've taken internal votes and they're in favor of bringing in anti-abortion legislation. So Aaron O'Toole is a leader, I think likely to attract more voters, has come out and said, oh, I'm pro-choice. But he also said that he wouldn't stand in the way of his party bringing forward new anti-abortion legislation. So that is something, if that party takes power, that's a huge fear of mine and a lot of women and men across the country, is that they will use that opportunity to change the law and take away these rights that women have, these secure rights.
Yeah, I didn't hear that part of it. I just mentioned the part that I did hear.
Yeah.
Sonny, did you hear anything about that?
Sorry, Sony or Antonio? Sorry.
Sony.
Okay. Sorry. No, I did hear briefly that Aaron O'Toole did say that he was pro-choice, but and this is just my opinion. I just can't believe it's 2021, and this is still a topic for women, right? But I'm not going to get into that. But it just seems that this topic should have been, I don't want to say resolved, but should have women should get. I'm going to stop. So I haven't heard much, because I will go on. So I haven't heard much about just the fact that he was pro-choice.
PC, do you think that the Conservatives are a threat to your right to choose whether or not to have a child?
Conservative?
Yeah.
Based on the information that Jen and Kara shared, I don't know. The leader of the party says one thing, then the majority of the party says something else. Like, that to me is inconsistent message. I don't know who to believe, but based on what Jen mentioned, I think there is a threat to the women's right. And I also agree with Sony that this topic should be kind of like universally agreed, and they're just bringing it up again as a topic to, I guess, attract more attentions, or just use it as a topic of the center of the attention. I don't feel right. Like, this should be said and done.
So just if I could follow up with you, Cece, just extrapolate from what does it tell you? If I was to tell you that I was pro-life, if I was to tell you that I was pro-life and I did not believe in a woman's right to choose, what would that tell you about me?
That will give me a really negative impression about you, that you're very self-centric, that you think that your opinion should be the right one versus everyone else. I think it's really like the freedom of choice here, right? And also give me a feeling that there's a bit of a dictatorship around there, right? Like, why should I be listening, or why should everyone else listening to you? Why can't everyone just make the decision based on their own situation and personal preference? So overall, that is a negative, I think, a statement if someone were to make that.
Okay. Dragon, did you pay any attention to this abortion discussion?
David, I haven't heard much about this topic, but I learned actually quite a few things just listening to the other panelists.
But it wasn't something you paid attention to this week, just to be clear. It wasn't something that you were paying attention to this week.
I may have missed that in the news, but I watch the news almost daily, and just like Sissy said, it should be up to the women to decide. And I also don't agree why they keep bringing this topic again. They did it last time, and now they again.
Who's bringing it? Who's bringing it up? Who brings it up, Dragon?
Well, I learned from the panelists. I think the Conservatives,
okay.
And they should not be even talking about this topic at all. Should be talking something more other things. Healthcare and employment and so on. So I don't agree. They should not be talking about this topic.
Okay. So the Conservatives took the unusual step of releasing their entire platform in the first week of the campaign. Does anybody able to remember anything that was in that or know anything that was in that? If I was to ask you, what is Aaron O'Toole promising you will happen if he gets elected prime minister? What would you say?
I didn't read it. I haven't had a chance yet.
I think I heard this. Oh, sorry.
It's 165 pages, so it's going to take a while to go through that.
I think I heard one
Give
or
me
two.
one thing.
Yeah, they said they will work on the economics and also they'll create more job opportunities. That's something I heard.
Okay. It's pretty vague, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Oh, they want to use like about 10 years to balance the debt and the revenue. So, but I think some experts say that's a too short a time frame to balance that the debt. So they say they expect to maybe take 50 years, something like that.
Okay. Anybody else got an idea? What do you get if you vote Conservative?
I seen that they were going to increase. Sorry,
go ahead, Art. That's fine.
I seen that they were going to increase healthcare payments to the provinces. So that's a good thing, I think, obviously. But that's one of the things I see a benefit from Conservatives.
Okay. Sorry, I was asking you too. What do you get if you vote Conservative?
Well, I read a couple of things that where he wanted to introduce a fee for immigration. So a fee that to expedite your case, you would pay for a fee, and then they would use that fee to hire more officers to help with immigration cases.
Really? How do you feel about that?
I thought I didn't quite agree with that because again, it's kind of like if you have the money, then you get bumped up in front of the line. Maybe someone more desperate, or maybe someone that not more desperate, so maybe someone that needs to come. They may not have the funds to pay for, to expedite their case, but they still need to be here. So you're kind of saying, if you have the money, we can help you like this. But if you don't have it, then you're going to wait in line with everybody else. So I don't quite agree with that.
Okay, Sarduel, do you know anything that the Conservatives are promising? If you vote Conservative, what do you get?
To be honest with you, I was thinking vote for Conservative is good for the country. They will balance the books. They will give more money to the provinces, and most Canadian people will be happy with that if Conservative government comes up because they take care of people. And I have a different little bit subject, if you allow me, just for 20 seconds. We all Canadians, and we have to think where our kids gonna go, next generation, to buy houses, buy properties, to live in, and it's out of reach already in Vancouver and Toronto and all big cities. And what government will be doing to stop this prices going up and up and up every day. A lot of houses are empty, money comes from outside, they bought a house and they go back. Government not doing anything to stop this. And our children will be big time suffering to buying houses and all that stuff.
Antonio?
And now that Sarduel brought that up, I actually, there was a couple little things with the Conservative platform. One was actually they want to do a 2-year no foreign investments purchasing homes in Canada. That was one of the things I see in their platform, and something about a GST holiday or something for like a month in the fall where where we wouldn't have to pay. Basically, you can do your Christmas shopping early and not pay GST to try and get people shopping and supporting businesses and stuff like that. So I mean, they're trying to. It's the same thing, trying to buy votes. I mean, the foreign home ownership. I think that's great. I think that would be. I'd love to see that. That's the one thing out of that. If they were to have come into power, that if they would stop foreign investment, maybe it would help the housing prices not continue to skyrocket so much. That might like Sarduel said, that our kids and grandkids or whatever have an opportunity one day if a policy like that was put in, and then they came in with over the 2 years something to really regulate the chance of foreign ownership. You can buy if you're moving here to live here kind of thing, but not if you don't move here, then something. I don't know. There has to be something, because it's like I said, there's no. There was a couple of things I did hear kind of points though, was that they were going to do a 2-year minimum 2-year ban. It would be a 2-year basically starting point, right?
Okay, Cece.
just on that like 2-year ban for foreign investor to purchase real estate in Canada. I feel like that is very short-sighted like decision. Why 2 years? Like, tell me about the science behind the 2 year. Do you think 2 year will stop the price from increasing? And from a different side of view, like, what will happen to the existing pricing of the housing market if all of a sudden, if we were to stop having more buyer? I think right now is still the seller's market. So I think I'm afraid there will be a sudden drop in the real estate market. And that may be the beginning of a housing crisis. So I don't agree with that decision, right? Like, I think maybe increasing the foreign tax and foreign purchasing tax is actually the right decision to make. Like, why 2 year? Tell me the science behind 2 year. Do you think 2 year will actually help stabilizing and normalizing the price of the real estate? Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
also-
wait, no. I know everybody wants to talk about housing, but you also want to leave. And
We have more questions to get
Goes
to.
with vaccination, doesn't
I
it?
mean, I'm good for an extra half an
I know
hour.
everybody wants to talk about housing. I want to ask you, when we met last week, there were a lot of questions.
Oh, you just froze up.
Okay, so it wasn't me. I thought he froze
No,
up.
it's
No,
just him.
it's a great. We should screen cap this and then make that our picture. There we go.
Back?
Yeah,
There you
we're
go.
back.
Back, okay. You'll have to repeat the
thank you.
question.
Okay. My question was, last week when we talked, there were a number of people that were questioning what the election was for, what Mr. Trudeau needed a renewed mandate for. Did he come anywhere to answer that question this week?
No,
What is the Liberal proposition to you what is the Liberal proposition in this campaign?
personally, I think he's just calling it for personal reasons to try and capitalize on his popularity right now to get a majority government. I don't think there's really a need to have an election right now.
It's interesting because Nova Scotia went conservative, which was totally unexpected for them in their provincial election. So it kind of makes me wonder what will happen federally as well.
Did Trudeau say anything important or interesting this week? One thing important or interesting this week?
Not to me.
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything either. Yeah.
I have to say that I like how the Conservative and the NDP party have put out their full platforms, yet the Liberals haven't put out their full platform. It makes me think that they're waiting to see which way the wind blows before they make a decision on how they want to proceed.
Okay.
I think what Liberals are thinking, there's a issue on everybody's kitchen table. Why he called the election? There's no need for it. They're thinking that issue will die in a week or so. Then they will turn around and see something different.
All right. So we're going to end now with, I want to do this relatively quickly so that we can all get back to our lives, but I want to show you some of the advertising that was run by the parties this week and get your quick reaction to it. Okay? So, first ad.
In Canada, we have each other's backs. We always have. And though vast lands and mountain ranges separate us from each other, we know the best way to overcome great challenges is to work together. This is a big country with big ideas. We build stronger, think bigger, work smarter, and push ourselves harder than any other place on Earth. We speak our minds and we listen to each other. And while we may not agree on everything, we find a way to work things out. That's what Canadians do when we get knocked down. We pull together to make things better and leave no one behind. That's the Canada I know and the Canada I fight for each and every day. So let's think even bigger, Canada. Let's be relentless. And let's keep moving forward for everyone.
Okay. Who wants to tell me what the main message of that ad is? Who wants to tell me what the point of that ad is? Somebody. Oh, Antonio, go.
That we're all in it together and we gotta get along and move forward. It's the Canadians. That's the Canadian way, basically. The theme was, it's the Canadian way to band together and move forward, even if we disagree.
Anybody hear anything different than that in the ad? Anybody find a different main message in that advertisement?
I took something a little different out of that same vein, but a little different. Trudeau, it sounds like he's speaking the language he's always been speaking about. Hey, I'm here for all Canadians, not just the big ones or the little ones. Let's all move forward. So similar, but it's a little different.
Okay. And
from this ad, I feel like what he says is not necessarily what he does.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, he says he is working for every single Canadian. I don't believe so.
Who's he not working for?
I gave that example last session.
Yeah.
That was a heartbreaking story. So it's still like it cannot be forgotten. It's disgraceful.
Okay. So Jane, you come into this leaning toward voting Liberal. Does that ad make you more likely to vote Liberal, less likely, or have no impact on your decision?
It doesn't have any impact. I do want to add that it had a strong diversity vein to it. And I think that's very important. And I will briefly bring up the last time the Conservative Party was in power under Stephen Harper with immigrants, and I'm an immigrant also. They made us second-class citizens. They brought in a two-tier system of citizenship. Whereas someone who had immigrated to Canada, I could be deported back to the country that I was born in, even though I had never lived there since I was 2 years old. I do have a fear with the Conservatives, and like Sony was talking about, again, with the immigration and doing a two-tier system where the rich people might get ahead of, or richer people might get ahead of the line. I think that the Conservative Party does have a problem with immigration, and the Liberals. I did see in this ad a lot of inclusivity in that, which I feel is one of the Liberal Party's strong points.
Okay. Anybody who felt like this, I know that one advertisement's not going to change your vote. I know that you're more sophisticated than that, but in terms of your leaning, did this ad make anybody feel more open or more inclined to voting Liberal than they were before they saw it?
No.
No. Sarduel, you yes?
I don't think so. The reason is, if you're doing things for Canadian, don't need election. He's doing everything what he can. Nobody's stopping him. This is a false statement.
Tara, why didn't you find that, does it leave you cold, or what is your reaction to that message?
I like the music. It was sort of irrelevant in terms of there is no substance to what he was showing there.
Okay. What kind of substance would you like to have heard?
Well, I guess what he's doing directly to bring us all together or to make us stronger.
Right. Okay. How about our next ad?
Canada's best days are ahead of us, but we need to get the country back on its feet and back on track. 12 years in the Air Force taught me you need a plan for every mission. Canada's recovery plan will get the economy surging in the right direction for all Canadians from every walk of life. Recover 1 million jobs, tough anti-corruption laws, mental health action, securing Canadian-made supplies, balancing the budget. Enough talk. Let's get to work. Secure the future. Vote Conservative.
Okay. Sonny, what's the main message of that ad?
What I took away from it was the issues that his platform. He's talking about, what he'll do if he gets elected. I also saw it as a little self promo, in the beginning where he kind of talks about himself and being in the army and stuff. But my main message would be probably what he can do once he gets elected.
Right. Now, how did it make you feel, that ad?
To be honest, I think I like with Aaron O'Toole's, I like the fact that, like Tara said, he listed what he's going to do. Like, he listed what he's about. But I kind of felt more warmer, I guess, with the Justin Trudeau ad, with the, with the different, what he included, with what his what his images were, right? He talked a lot of inclusivity, a lot of diversity, moving forward, so a little bit more positive.
Okay. Dragon, what's your impression of this ad by Aaron O'Toole? What's the main message for you out of this ad?
Well, he's promising creating more jobs, million jobs, and also stopping the corruption. And I'm still undecided for now who I'm gonna be voting, but it's good to know some extra things about him that I did not know. I knew he was in the military before, but this is new to me about creating jobs, whether he's gonna be successful. And but as I mentioned, I'm still undecided as of today who I'm gonna be voting. But it just, like I mentioned, it's good to know extra from each candidate. I learned something new.
Dragon, did you think you liked him? Just watching the ad, did you think you liked him?
I don't like or dislike him, but I like to see his platform, what he's all about it, and no bad opinion about him. Not good, but I still like the ad. I like to learn more about this guy.
Okay. Hey, Art.
Yeah.
What did you take from it?
Well, I like the fact one thing he talked about was trying to bring manufacturing back to Canada. I think we need more in Canada products. You can see during the pandemic, we had to rely on other countries for personal protective equipment, masks and all that. So I like the fact that he wants to try and bring that back into Canada or strengthen the Canadian economy through that as well. Usually I don't listen to the ads because it's like business trying to advertise for your business. I'd rather just go on the web and get the meat and potatoes of their platforms and see how they're going to do it. Like I said before, but ads tend to try and just be a polished image to try and get your vote, and they try and tug on your emotional strings instead of your intellect.
Anybody else got a reaction to this ad they want to share? Cece.
Yeah, it's just watching these two ads that very different. Justin Trudeau is selling a spirit. I feel like he's really focusing on spirit. I kind of got a feeling that might be a teaser ad, given that it's only like the first, second week of the campaign. I feel like more to come. Watching that ad made me feel like there might be more to come. And then the Aaron O'Toole's ad is being very tactical, right? Like he tells you exactly, actually mirroring exactly the key focus on his party's website. So mirroring every topic that just focus, as well as he gave a very short summary of his military background and just give me a little bit more. I feel like he's more action oriented, like watching that ad, which might not be a bad strategy, just given that even for myself, I have very minimal knowledge about him. At least that ad got me started, attracted me to want to learn more about his strategy and plan.
How many people would say that they're more open to voting Conservative after watching that ad than they were before?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. E, what did you hear in there that interested you?
Yeah, so basically, when you compare these two ads, and one to me is more abstractive, the other one is more detailed. So meaning I can count on the promise that if he is going to keep. However, the other one is more abstractive, so that not something like very detailed. I can really refer to, you're talking, bring us together. So then what's your approach to bring us together? So you bring us together, you just give us more money, print more money, or what? So that is something like it's very vague, not exact information. If I would vote you, I would like to hear.
Okay. So I know from our conversation last week, with the exception of Art and Sardul, who've only joined us first this week, I know for everybody else that none of you knew anything about Aaron O'Toole.
Right.
Last week.
Mm-hmm.
None of you
I don't even know his name.
Right. So how does this ad make you feel about him personally? Any of you? Just tell me, as your first introduction to the guy, what do you think of him?
I'm curious to learn a lot more about the man. The military status is interesting to me. It doesn't necessarily make him a good leader because he was in the army. It makes him a great follower for sure, but that's part of the army, right? You take orders. I don't know what his status in the military was. 12 years is a long time. So what caused that switch to go from military to politics? That's a really big jump. That's not a little step. That's a huge, huge step. And then that tells you as well that he hasn't been in politics for that long. So him skyrocketing to being considered a leader of the Conservatives, that's actually impressive to me to understand. You know, you haven't been long in there and now you're one of their main leaders. You're the choice they've put forward. So he must have something going on. It doesn't mean he's the right candidate for any particular reason. I don't know enough about him, but that's very interesting to me to go and learn about.
Anybody else have their opinion changed or grown or affected by this ad? Jane, yes?
Yeah, I'm confused as to why they keep bringing up that he's ex-military, because like Daryl said, I don't see that as any kind of huge strength. I'm ex-military myself. I spent years in the army, in the Canadian military. So yeah, it just shows that politics is some kind of second choice somewhere along the way. People attracted to politics usually go through law or political science or something else and have that kind of education and background. So the fact that he was in the military doesn't tell me anything about his political leadership skills or how he would operate on a world stage as a statesman.
It kind of feels to me like he's the American sort of thing, because in America, abortion is a huge issue when they do their voting and everybody's speaking about it, as well as whether or not the leader, you know, was in the military is something that seems to be a big issue for people there. Almost feels to me like has an American influence on him.
Interesting. Sergio, what do you want to say?
If you see the both ads, what you see is Justin is a very good speaker, and he know how to talk, he know how to speak, and if you hear him last few elections, like this is his third election, he's the kind of guy talk sweet and all this stuff, like true politicians speak. I don't know. Tool to me is he just go get it, do this, and that's it. So I was thinking his ad is better than Trudeau.
Okay, so let's watch a third ad
Art
then.
had one more comment. I'd like to hear from Art real quick.
All right. Daryl's taking over moderating the group. Art, you got a chance.
I want to hear from the new guys.
As far as his military, I guess he's trying to convey that he served Canada early in his life and now he wants to serve it in another matter. I guess that's probably the message he's trying to convey. As far as the ad, I like how he's focused on doing stuff, whereas Trudeau wants to make us feel good about being Canadian, which is nice, but doesn't really give us an indication on what he wants to accomplish if he gets elected again.
Okay, thank you, Art. All right, can we fire up our third ad?
It's not just what you say that matters, it's what you do. For 6 years, we've heard Justin Trudeau say the right thing with no intention of doing it. I want to build a better future for every Canadian, not talk about it. Make life more affordable for your family. Tax the ultra-rich and use that money to help the rest of us. Better is possible with a Prime Minister who actually wants to do more for you.
Okay. Who wants to tell me what the main message of that ad is?
I think at the beginning he was kind of attacking Trudeau for some of the scandals that have cropped up, saying what unions do and all that. I'd like to know what he considers to be ultra rich. I mean,
hopefully
as Greg says, he's worth $3.5 million. Does he consider himself ultra rich, or is he looking at people who are 10 million above? Like, I mean, what is ultra rich nowadays?
Mm-hmm. Right. Just as long as you're not part of it, right?
I guarantee I'm not part of it.
None of us is one of the ultra rich.
If I was ultra rich, I'd be retired now.
All right. Who else? What's this ad about? Jane?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it started out as an attack ad, and I don't have a lot of respect for that, like I said last week. And then he made some vague promises about doing things. When he, it turned me off right away when he said Justin Trudeau just talks about doing things and hasn't done anything. And you look particularly at the last 18 months and everything that government has done. They've handled a once in a lifetime huge healthcare emergency, and yes, actually, to speak to what Art said, they actually have already brought manufacturing of PPE back to Canada. That was one of the things they're doing, and they're also looking at, and they're in the process of restarting Canadian manufacturing of drugs, because that was something that the last Conservative government sold off. We did have facilities to manufacture pharmaceuticals within Canada, and Harper privatized that, and then those were sold off. So those things that the Conservatives sold off before, now they're saying, oh, now that there's a crisis, we should bring that back. But the Liberals are already have done that and in the process of doing that. So I just, with Jagmeet Singh, it went from a little bit of attack to some vague promises of, I'll actually do what I say I'm going to do. But as we all know, there's limited truth in all of them.
David, I just want to mention that I actually work for a pharmaceutical company here in Canada that manufactures medication.
Okay, great. Dragon.
Okay.
Well, my impression of looking at this ad is promising to make the housing more affordable for everyone, and make life better for everyone. But I don't agree, like James said earlier, that the Liberal government has done nothing. That's really untrue. Even though I'm not on the side of Liberals, I'm actually on the side of NDP. That's what I voted the last time. But some false information there from the beginning. But I like the fact that he's gonna make, he wants to make housing more affordable. So
do you like him, Dragon? Do you like him? Do you like him?
Yes. I like him, but I don't think enough people will vote for him. He's my first choice for now, David. He's been from the beginning, he's still now, but I'm still undecided. I want to hear more, get to know more about the other two candidates. But for now, he is my first choice to vote.
Hey, Sardul, without offending you, maybe I will. I hope not.
Go ahead.
I'm just gonna be a stereotypical dumb white guy.
I'm here 50 years. Don't worry.
Okay. What would it mean to you if Jagmeet Singh became the prime minister?
To be honest with you, I think he will be a good prime minister. The reason is he have a lot of education. I think he's by profession, he's a lawyer. Okay. He talks sense. He's a good speaker. And he have a very good knowledge for the countrywide. If you see what Liberal did, if you want to buy a house, you have no money, you borrow from the bank, you don't think you're going to pay back the loan, you can buy anything you want to buy. This is what Trudeau did. Get a loan and give money. Get a loan, give money. Did he ever think who's going to pay back to the loan? So this is what Jagmeet is thinking. Get the money from the ultra-rich people. I'm agree with you guys. He should put a limit to it, 10 million, 5 million, 20 million, whatever it is. This is nothing wrong with that. If you have a grocery in your fridge and you don't worry about money in the bank. So if you have money in the bank, $100 is saving, $1,000 is saving. Otherwise, everybody gets feed. That's the main purpose. So I was thinking, Jagmeet is good. But to bring the country online, Trudeau has to be do differently. He don't just borrow money and spend money, borrow money and spend money. One day somebody have to pay back it. I don't know who's going to pay back it. I don't think it's going to happen to our lifetime to pay back it.
Thank you. Who likes Jagmeet Singh more after watching this ad than they did before?
Oh, yeah.
Daryl, why?
Well, I like the verbiage. I like what he's saying. I like the taxation idea. It's great. The catch, there's always a catch to these things, is what's stopping the rich person from just leaving the country, right? They'll take those jobs with them and take those plants somewhere else. We've seen that happen in other industries. It's not new. We don't know the details on what that would look like I said, but I like what he's saying. I do like where he's going with it. I just want to know how it will implement. How do we keep those people paying that tax? They're not paying the taxes now, so.
Hey, Cece, what do you think about all this? What do you think about Jagmeet saying in that advertisement?
I did like how he spent the most precious 10 seconds in the backlash Justin Trudeau. I feel like that's a bad strategy. And then I feel like the rest of the ad, just like, he's always comparing himself to Justin Trudeau. This is what he do. I'm going to be completely different, or I'm going to be better. I didn't quite like the ad, to be honest. I think he made a good point on taxing the ultra rich, which I'm very interesting to learn more about that. But just overall, because how he started the ad, the rest just it turns me off. I'm less in tune to the rest of the content he's mentioning.
Based on how they presented themselves. Based on how they presented themselves to you, Antonio is back.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on my phone. My computer just had a complete breakdown, so I don't know what happened.
It's all right. I believe you. I don't think you went out and had a beer in the backyard. I really don't. Which of these three people presented themselves to you in a way that you enjoyed their company the most? Dragon.
Well, I like Jagmeet Singh. I forgot to mention David. That Derek just reminded me about taxing ultra rich, but he should make it more clear. Ultra rich, what's the minimum? Who's gonna? He should make it more clear. Ultra rich, like 10 million and plus. So they should make it more clear. But I like, of all three ads, I like him the best for now. That's my opinion.
Right. Sonny, assuming you have to spend the next 4 years with this person, watching them on TV every day or listening to them on their radio, who do you want to spend 4 years with?
A mix of personalities. No. I think if I had to, it would probably be Justin Trudeau.
Okay, because?
Just because I think of what he's shown us already, with some of the topics that I follow and stuff. So what he's shown us, I think I'd probably feel most comfortable spending it with him. But the other party, like Aaron O'Toole, I liked his because he actually spoke about what he was going to do.
Right. Tara, do you have an answer to that question? Which of those three guys do you want to have in your life for the next 4 years?
So I'm not 100% sure about that, but I found that Jagmeet Singh's ad turned me more off of him than I was before, because of not just the attack at the beginning, but saying something like someone who actually cares about the people. Although I'm not sure any politician goes about it well. I think that they all care somewhere. And then, so conversely, Justin's ad really looked like, even though he didn't say what he was going to do, that he really liked the Canadian people and thought very highly of Canadian people.
Right. Okay, I got one more ad to show you, and then I'm going to let you go.
The Liberal, NDP, and Green Alliance have got you on the ropes. Out of control spending. Soaring house prices. Higher living costs. You need to fight back before they hit you again and again and again. We can't afford more of the same. Canada's recovery plan will recover 1 million jobs and balance the budget within 10 years. Secure the future. Vote Conservative.
All right, who wants to tell me what they learned from that ad? Antonio.
Well, I don't know about learn from it, but a little bit aggressive with the boxing thing there. But just the recovery plan. They want 10-year balanced budget. It's the conservative thing, right? Always that they're going to balance it. They're going to do, and that means cuts and reduce services for Canadians. Usually, that's what it equates to. So it's
Did anybody feel they learned anything from that ad? Tara, you got kind of your hand up, and you got kind of your hand up. So let's start with you, Tara.
I kind of felt, because of what he said in the beginning, it looked like it was conservatives against everybody else. So why is everybody else the same? That would sort of make me feel like everybody else is against him together as a group. So, which is kind of how Parliament has been run, right, with the minority government.
Right. Yi?
Yeah, I think from this ad, I can see that he clearly point out like what are the problems, and then the problems would be his task and a focus.
Okay. All right. Art?
I didn't
made a
like
face.
it,
You were making a face.
Yeah, because it was total attack. To Tara's point, it felt like more like an American politician commercial rather than a Canadian. It was total aggressive, as Antonio says, and it didn't have any substance at the end. It just says, "Oh, we're going to make the economy better." That doesn't tell you what they're going to do, how they're going to do about it. It's just a personal attack on the other parties, which to me doesn't help me making a decision on who I want to vote for.
Okay. So liking an ad is one thing. Enjoying watching an ad is one thing. Supporting an ad is another thing. But let me ask you this precise question. Did this advertisement raise any doubts with you about the Liberal government's record?
No.
No.
No?
I use Polymeter quite often, and I find it to be a really good resource for tracking results from different politicians. And I highly recommend people just go on Google, type in Polymeter Justin Trudeau, and you can see they track all the promises over the years. It's impressive what they do. And it's all the politicians as long as they have a record.
I found I didn't even notice what they
Didn't
said.
even notice what?
All of those statistics. I was too sort of caught up with the punching and trying to figure out who's putting this ad out than I was about what they actually said.
Right, okay. Cece, they listed a whole bunch of terrible things that the government's done. Why doesn't that change your opinion about the government?
I think I made a statement last time and I'll reiterate it again. I don't think there's any other party that if they were in position during the pandemic, they would have done any better. Just because a Liberal did that, it doesn't really mean that any other party could have done a better job during a time like that.
Do you think the Conservatives would have spent as much money as the Liberals have if they'd been the government through this pandemic?
Yeah, I just want to echo with what Cece says.
I just wanted to get Cece's answer to my question. Do you think the Conservatives would have spent as much money if they'd been the government as the Liberals did during this pandemic?
Nope.
I don't know. I can't say yes or no.
Okay. Yi?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Cece says. I think it's a very interesting point that Cece says no other party will do better than what Liberal did. However, that is a no answer question because we don't know if it's not Liberal Party, but other parties, are they going to do worse than what Liberal did? So that's a question will never know the answer. So we cannot assume that one party will do better than the other party in those once in a lifetime pandemic time. So I would say to be fair, it's not, there's no comparison base compared to parties. Was they going to do better or worse?
Just to add like 2 seconds onto that too, the other parties have the benefit of hindsight to say, oh, I would have done this differently. And the Liberals do not.
Justin Trudeau in his ad says that he had Canadians' backs during the pandemic. What does he mean by that? And do you agree with him?
I would say that he probably meant along the lines of like the COVID relief fund, the CERB, all of that, giving people money. Art, I believe it was the one who mentioned they were just tossing it out. I think Trudeau mentioned that as well. They were tossing it out to a lot of unqualified people, but the fact that it went out quickly and smoothly, it was important for many, many more Canadians over the ones who didn't necessarily deserve it. And those ones will eventually get found.
Jane?
Yeah, and I also want to talk about Justin Trudeau's buying vaccines and buying millions and millions of vaccines from different manufacturers. He had all bases covered in that way that other countries didn't have. The United States didn't even do that. So we had access to some of the pharmaceuticals before the US even did. But also, doing the social programs. So giving money towards business to help pay their employees, having the rent relief program federally, expanding the Employment Insurance Act so that more people were eligible for that money, the CERB and the CRB. I think they acted quite fast. And if you look at it in comparison at what happened in the States, they lagged way behind us in those things as well. So I think they were on the ball, and I think they prioritized the health and safety and finances of Canadians. Yeah.
Okay. Art?
Yeah, I think it was Trudeau that's mentioned about people not getting at that tune of God. But I think I'm not the biggest fan of Prime Minister Trudeau, but I think under the circumstances, not just the federal government, but I think all levels of government in Canada actually cooperated and were united in dealing with this pandemic. Unlike, as Jane says, down in the States, they seem to be so diverse and not united in different opinions, and you could see the results that are so many deaths down in the States. But I think for something that just came out and nobody really had any experience, and I think Mr. Trudeau did a pretty good job of doing it, of handling the case, even though I'm not the biggest supporter of him. I have to give him credit for that.
Terrific. Another fascinating focus group. I learned so much from getting out of my bubble and talking to regular people who are not following this with every twist and turn and minutia, but nonetheless are going to cast the votes that decide the day. I think what we heard today is a few things. First of all, we heard that the election, first week of the election, wasn't very interesting and didn't have a lot of impact. So the significant movement we've seen in the polls is not really on the basis of anything that anybody has done or any new development. It's really just the drift of a first week of a campaign that didn't really seem to be about anything, and a government that didn't really put that much on the table for people to digest. I think we also learned that while there's room to critique the Liberals' record and room to run against them, that room is probably not found in their handling of the pandemic. And their vulnerabilities are not likely found in the things that people are attacking them on about the CERB or about how much money they spent during the pandemic. Vulnerabilities are more about leadership and more about the future than they are about the pandemic. And the last thing we heard is that the other leaders introduced themselves relatively well, but didn't make a huge impression. And a lot of the debates that we've been talking about in the past week also didn't make much an impression, but they're filtering through. Some people heard about abortion and choice. Some people heard about vaccines. So these things are dripping down and starting to have an influence. But it was a slow first week as far as people are concerned, and that's probably, most importantly, what's reflected in the polls. I'd really like to thank our participants for giving up their valuable personal time to talk with us about their feelings about the election. I would like to thank Telus, our presenting sponsor. Without their support, this project would not be possible, and their commitment to expanding the debate and educating Canadians is so admirable. And I'd like to thank the Air Quotes Media team for their tremendous efforts in pulling together this ambitious project. We're doing this every week, so we'll see you next week.